Representative, thank you for taking the time. We got a special session coming up on Monday, the 21st, and among the items that the governor has listed include responses to the floods we saw in Kerrville in the Hill Country. What specifically would you like to see done as a result of what we saw in the Hill Country, those tragedies?
Man, if I had the answer to that question, I don't think that we would have to spend a lot of time digging in with an investigative committee like we're going to do. The speaker just a couple of days ago appointed a select committee to go down there to Kerrville and hear directly from the people in the area. And I have no doubt that they're going to leave no rock unturned to see what else could have been done. I mean, what an absolute tragedy and the loss of lives. I think whenever we had the hearing at the Capitol the other day on Tuesday, the number was somewhere over 130 total, with too many precious children's lives lost. I have no doubt whatsoever that the legislature is going to put all of our effort into getting this right and doing the hard work and putting in the hours and hours of time that is required to not just have a knee-jerk reaction, but to have a very thoughtful and collaborative effort to make sure that, let's be very realistic. There's no government can prevent tragedy forever or for every circumstance. That's just the perfect truth. But what we can do is take steps to make sure that local governments and local communities have the resources that they need to put warning systems in place, to track the water height whenever flash flooding happens, or to have advanced warning systems, things like that. So obviously, those are kind of the lowest hanging fruit from what we've seen happen in Central Texas. Another thing that I think is really important is to investigate what cloud seeding does and weather manipulation. And I know the people who do the cloud seeding say, there's nothing to see here, but we should at least look into it. And maybe that's the case. Maybe cloud seeding has nothing to do with it, but I think we should definitely take a deep dive and investigate whether or not it does.
A couple things I want to go ask you off of that, but first of all, what exactly is cloud seeding, just for those who are unaware?
Um, if we hadn't have already talked a little bit about it during the regular session, I wouldn't be able to answer this question. But so what happens is there will be an area of moisture or low pressure in the atmosphere, in the sky, typically in more arid regions. So west of I-35 in the Panhandle, West Texas type areas, and the EPA contracts with certain companies. Now, the EPA is federal, not state. The EPA contracts with them to go and literally fly in front of a growing cloud or growing potential storm system and spray it with particles that encourage the condensation of liquid of water that will then fall into rain.
Now, and another question I want to ask you is, from what you've seen of the response, to what we saw in Hill Country, what the governor said, what the speaker said, what you've heard from fellow lawmakers, is there anything that does stick out to you as something that should be done, in particular in response to what we saw?
Yeah, one of the things I think we have too many warning systems that we go off on our phones to where we've become tone deaf to them. And when we do get something that chimes off on our phone or an alert, something like that, we just ignore them because there are way too many. Uh, when something absolutely serious does happen, we may not see it because we've gotten so used to all these warnings going off. So I think the state of Texas should look into prioritizing those that are serious enough to make it through to our phones. Amber alerts are critical. There's no question about that, and they've saved the lives of lots of children. But maybe we could stair step that into an approach where you start with the geographic region that alert went out instead of the entire state of Texas. Because I know you've probably been in a crowded room at some point when everybody's phone starts going off with an Amber Alert, and it ends up happening in El Paso. Probably not something that we're going to catch right away in East Texas, but nonetheless, those are still critically important. So how do we begin to desensitize ourselves to those alerts coming through?
Was that something that you heard concerns about, following what happened in Hill Country, or is that something you feel is a more, general, we need to isolate, where these alerts are being, put out in?
Yeah, no, that is something that I've heard from lots of constituents just in conversation around the community is we have too many alerts. If they were saying if I were laying in bed, I had my family on a camping trip down on the Guadalupe, then I wouldn't have heard it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd just hit the silence button because so many of them go off all the time. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on that angle.
And when you look at how quickly the water in the river rose as a result of this, does it concern you at all for infrastructure in East Texas?
Well, we've seen flooding here without question. Here in Palestine, just a few years ago, we had major flash flooding that took the lives of a couple of different families when we got lots and lots of rain in a short period of time. Along the river basin, when a few weeks ago, when I flew out to Lubbock to do the bill signing with Governor Abbott on House Joint Resolution 7 and SB 7, our major water infrastructure bills. Flying back, I could see the Trinity River Basin and how much flooding had gone on there from all of the rains up in North Texas. So, of course, that's something that we need to continue to address. Our flood infrastructure fund. I chair the joint committee in the House and the Senate. I'm the House chair of the SWIFT Advisory Committee and the Flood Infrastructure Fund Committee, which flood infrastructure has just come around after Hurricane Harvey. Really, that's when the state of Texas really started putting resources to mitigating massive floods. And at that time, since then, we've really been kind of focused on that coastal region. Well, now it looks like we actually need to expand that. And I think it could have multiple benefits if we look statewide. What can we do during a flash flood situation to slow down those creek beds and watersheds, not only to save lives, but the double benefit is we can begin to recharge those aquifers that are going dry if we can slow that water down instead of letting it just rush out into the rivers and down into the ocean.